Hey, CPG Guys listeners, PVSB here, and we want to take a minute to tell you about something that Shri and I are genuinely proud to be a part of, and that's the Cornell Omnicommerce Leadership Program, an immersive, on-campus executive education experience at Cornell University in beautiful Ithaca, New York, happening July 27th through the 31st. This isn't a webinar. This isn't another online certificate you do in your pajamas. This is 5 days on the Cornell campus, surrounded by senior executives from retail, CPG, and ad tech service providers, all wrestling with the same questions you are. How do I win the omni shopper? How do I navigate retail media? What does agentic commerce mean for my business? The faculty lineup is extraordinary. We're talking Cornell professors alongside practitioners from Mars Snacking, Nestle, Walmart, Ahold Delhaize, Fetch, Dollar General, Monster Energy, Bayer Consumer Health, and yes, Shri and I will be right there in the room with you. You walk away with a Cornell SC Johnson College of Business certificate, 36 professional development hours, and, more importantly, a concrete omni-commerce roadmap you can bring back to your organization on day one. Seats are very limited. The program is built for VPs, directors, and senior leaders who are serious about getting ahead of where commerce is going. Visit the link in our show notes to learn more and request information. Search online for Cornell Omnicommerce Leadership or find the direct link at CPGGuys.com. We'll see you in Ithaca this July. Now let's get into today's episode.
Hi, I'm Kiri Masters, host of Retail Media Breakfast Club, and I'm here with the CPG Guys.
Hello and welcome to the CPG Guys podcast, set at the intersection of commerce and tech. Your hosts, Shri Rajagopalan and Peter V.S. Vaughn, explore how brands and retailers engage consumers in a digitally driven world. And now, here are the CPG Guys.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the CPG Guys podcast. I'm, of course, Shri, your West Coast co-host and also CRO and co-founder of Think Blue Consulting, trusted partner on your omnichannel journey where you can get in touch with me at shri@thinkblueconsulting.co. Please do listen to my younger daughter, Lara, or the Banquet Sai, who have now announced a full tour in the fall of Europe and US. This time it's arenas, also the Nordic countries, so I hope you are able to get a ticket. And I'm joined today by my East Coast co-host, co-founder, Mr. PVSB, who also moonlights industry and client engagement at Flywheel, Commerce Acceleration Division of Omnicom. You're here at Cannes. We are actually wrapping up 4 days of hectic activation that included panels, meetings, podcasts, walking up and down the cross 100-degree weather, yacht rides, yacht events, yacht parties,
dinners on La Plage. It was quite exhilarating, Shri.
Indeed.
But I'm excited to be here, Shri, and who better to take away our thoughts and ideas coming out of this a great event than the industry foremost and now reigning champion of the Rumble.
Indeed,
for
the Royal
Rumble.
Rumble.
The Royal Rumble of retail media. We'll get to her in a second, but Shri, I always enjoy doing this. This is a big year for us at Cannes. We have a huge space. We did 4 major activations, recorded another 10 podcasts on top of that. It was exhausting, but I loved every second of it, and I mostly loved it because I did it with you, man.
And you realize it's not going to be any different next.
No.
Hopefully the temperature cools.
Thanks for leaving me the hour and a half to walk up and down the Croisette. It wasn't an hour and a half. It was more like an hour. But
I had a premonition it's going to be 100 degrees, and I saved you inside the AC atmosphere.
Yeah.
That's how I think of it.
Thank you for that.
Let me thank all of you that listen to us and as sponsors. Without you, this podcast doesn't exist in the first place. Make sure you're subscribing to our podcast on your preferred listening platform, where you can get our latest episodes and go back to consume some of the 600 plus episodes we've already published. Episode 600, of course, was Tony Rogers, the Chief Marketing Officer of Dollar General. And we had a full C-suite lineup leading up to it mid-May through mid-June. CMO, CEO, CCO, you name it, we had him. CRO, Chief Growth Officer. Now let me jump to our guest.
Shri, by the way, we've done 600 and it took us 6 years to get there. Our guest does 5 a week. It's not going to take her that long to catch up on this. Maybe 4 in a week, but still. She's going to catch up. So we're
150 weeks, 3 years or less.
We're watching.
She's well on her way, so it's not 3 years, more like 2 now at this point. So let me welcome to the show none other than, as Peter said, the champion of the Royal Rumble of retail media, the boss herself, created an agency, sold it, and now having way too much fun with her own podcast, which I'm going to ask you to take a second and describe right here.
She's a legit influencer.
Absolutely. the boss herself, Miss Kiri Masters. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I don't have a abbreviated title, though.
Can we come up with them?
Why can't we say the boss herself?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm okay with that. Just
Kiri
the boss,
Masters, the
branding.
boss. Yeah.
Thank you so
You
much
are
for
a boss,
having
aren't you?
me. You know what? I've been in and out of your house at Cannes this whole week. I was a bit worried. I was running over here for this. I had to grab some food because at Cannes, it is literal feast or famine. There's days I've eaten nothing except half a bag of chips and some chicken McNuggets on the train home.
Exactly what you.
Other days, it's like 3-course meal back to back. So
She did the McDonald's.
I did.
Oh my God, you did.
I did.
Wow. And with no kids in tow. That's amazing.
They're not going to be happy mommy left them and went.
Okay, so when you do go out to dinner, here's my first question. Does it ever last less than 3 hours? I mean, speed is not primary element of dinner in Cannes.
I don't have a problem with the speed of the food coming out. It's getting the check.
Oh my God. It's
When
like, don't want you to pay. There's no waiter to be found.
Yep. You know, I do have to apologize to all of your lovely and loyal listeners out there because they're just thinking, cry me a river.
First world problem.
But Kiri, so let's talk. Let's jump right into that. Right.
Yeah.
First of all, let's acknowledge who Kiri is. It is no joke to curate an agency in the mid 2010s and then be able to sell it off, and then now completely be able to be in the middle of the conversation on retail media. You're one of the most sought after speakers on the circuit, panelists, call it what you may. Podcast is so meaningful.
It is a
concentrated on retail media.
If you're in retail media, you must start your day with the Retail Media Breakfast Club. It's a quick hit. It's like, boom, a double shot.
Snackable.
It's very snackable.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate that.
So there's no better person. We talked about who we should invite to kind of talk about how Cannes 2026 went, and then what didn't happen. What didn't happen, what should happen with retail media. There's nothing to do with Cannes. We can't think of a better guest for the episode. And both of us looked at each other and said, it has to be Kiri Masters. And then I got the task of pinging you. Thankfully, you didn't say no.
We thought it should come from me because we thought you might say no to him. So
I believe it actually came from Suze.
Yeah, that's how we got it, Sri. That's how we got it.
That's because now that we have an employee in the mix, we were disciplined, and Suzanne said, everything goes through me, and we said, we're better off that way.
She's a taskmaster.
Yeah. Yep.
She keeps us in line. The trains are running on time in Suzanne's world. Suzanne, shout out.
It's an honor to have you here in the studio with us to wrap up what we observed and didn't observe. Before we dive into the hard-hitting topics that we want to cover today on the closeout, let me tell our audience, please check the digital show notes of this episode. We'll drop the LinkedIn hyperlinks for Kiri, of course, as well as a link to the actual podcast itself. And while you're there, not me, but Peter insists you must smash that 5-star rating either on Apple or Spotify. What's that about?
Free. If you want to, you wouldn't know because you don't eat meat, but if you were to get a hamburger, do you go to 3 Guys? No. Do you go to 4 Guys?
My world's most favorite French fries.
You go to 5 Guys. 5 is the number.
And got natural French fries.
Listen, the way our podcast gets found by industry contemporaries is the rating system. It's true. It makes us more findable as people go to search for things. So you give us a nice rating, share it with your colleagues. That's how our podcast and this community we've built continues to thrive. So smash the 5.
I think we need you have the different national days, National Hot Dog Day.
National Podcast Day?
Can we do a National Podcast Review Day?
Yeah.
I feel like
this is the day.
People get
Would you
so
like to
much
do one
value.
with us?
I think that we should start the trend. I will go and write podcast reviews. You will go write podcast reviews. We'll create a movement. I think
let's do that.
So the CPG Guys every couple of months produces its list of must listen to podcasts.
Okay.
And of course, the Retail Media Breakfast Club is on that list. So I'm thinking what we do is we publish our list and a CTA on the day that we've designated as National Podcast Review Day. Make sure with hyperlinks to each of them in Apple and Spotify, go write your review.
Yeah, you know what? We can have what you guys do, amazing swag. I've seen your t-shirts. I've seen your socks. We could do some kind of swag
giveaway prize.
That's
to the,
right.
Oh,
take a screen, because you've got to take a screenshot when you write the review. Otherwise, it disappears while they review it.
Or we asked them to include a specific hashtag, which we can go and search for in the reviews. And we know the date it was written and the hashtag that's going to be.
To me, it sounds like there's a plan.
We're gonna figure this out, but I love this idea. There will be a award for a lucky winner or two. They'll get some really cool swag, and we'll help create this and advance this community.
Are we good enough for meet and greet?
You don't like meeting people.
That is true.
You're kind of grouchy.
That is true. I talk to the wall.
I know.
Or in this case, what is this called? The step and repeat.
Step and repeat, yeah.
And
now we're just...
I'm learning so much. My original pitch for the topic of this podcast was, can we talk about like some behind the scenes podcasts?
Why don't we migrate there? So let's get started, Kiri.
Yeah.
Let's talk about behind the scenes podcast stuff, and then let's migrate into what we didn't see, what we saw here.
Okay. Well, first of all, one observation. Everyone has a podcast. You've seen there's podcasts that are popping up at activations. There is podcasts that are being done in sprint events on the street. I actually think that's a really good idea.
What differentiates most of those from, say, what Retail Media Breakfast Club or the CPG Guys do?
Well, she's the boss, so that differentiates everything.
Well, look, I think that there is no wrong way to do it, but you need to do something different, and it needs to be consistent. So you guys are very consistent, and you're very good at bringing in big names, profiles, like a volume of content. You do things your way. My way is I had a interview style podcast previously.
Yep.
And when I was looking to start this, I was like, you know what? There are so many great interview based podcasts out there. I don't need to do another one. We don't need another one with, the same folks coming on. You guys do a fantastic job of that. And so I do more editorial POV.
Yeah.
It's something that I have sat down and thought about, or sometimes this is actually a great format that I wish more people would do, is I listen to, sometimes it's one of your podcasts, other people's podcasts. I'm like, that got me thinking about this. And I'll take some snippets from that. I'll promote the original podcast, of course, and I'll say, hey, I listened to an interview with so-and-so on this podcast. Here's what I thought about. It made me think about this. Go have a listen. And then that's kind of like a curation as well, right? Yes.
That leads to some further examination. Yeah.
That's right. And because there are so many podcasts, I think people appreciate that. Oh, I haven't heard of that one. I might go check that out now.
Here's my take on, I know it separates you and I believe us as well, as so many of the podcasts that are out there are extensions of the business that they're selling.
It's a blog.
It's a blog
right?
Is not as strong. It seems to be just more a marketing channel.
Sure.
Not so much. Whereas you're not selling anything. You're not in doing the Retail Media Breakfast Club. You're truly trying to bring thought leadership to the industry.
And I don't think I had a blog for many years when I owned my agency. I had a podcast.
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying it's different.
But do something a little different. Is the point. And I don't see anything wrong with doing a podcast instead of a blog. But please do something different. Please do something interesting.
And the other challenge is when it is a company-driven activity, it unfortunately refines the scope of conversation and tends to center around exactly what that company does. And that's limiting from my perspective.
Can I ask a slightly more awkward question?
Yeah, by all means.
Okay. The bigger the name, the bigger the company, the less they will tell you. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? You guys have a lot of big names.
I'm not going to say that there are a lot of people that come on and they're like, just ask me whatever you want. And on the fly, we had a CMO the other day came on and he's like, nah, I'm covered. Y'all, I don't need to read your questions.
So one thing we should share, Peter, since Kiri asked us, the one thing that we originate all the questions. We don't allow someone to give us a script. It's just not allowed.
Yeah, we start now. Will they ask us? They'll come back and
make minor tweaks.
But they script their answers out, though.
Here's our belief on that.
Yes and no.
Yeah, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Here's our attitude. We're not trying to be investigative journalism, right? We're trying to educate the industry. And the best way for that to happen...
You're not 60 minutes?
We are not. We're not even 30 minutes. We have, by the way, we haven't been fired. We haven't been fired by the overlords.
Yeah.
So we're not investigative journalists. We are trying to educate the consumers that listen to our podcast. And we do a couple things. One, we joke around, we kid with each other, because to some degree that's who Shri and I naturally are. But we also find that it's kind of like Mary Poppins. A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, right? Some of the stuff, we cover, it's pretty dry,
I'm
right?
not advocating for sugar.
And so we're not advocating for sugar, but the point is, back to the actual scripted questions. We want them to know what questions they're getting, because we want them to come prepared with answers. We ask the greatest gift that Shri and I have is, as he said, we decide the questions, because guess what? We're asking questions that we genuinely want answered, not questions that their PR has said, can you ask him these questions?
Oh,
And rarely do the comms teams of some of these large Fortune 500 companies change our questions.
Mostly they'll
Rarely.
say, that's not his area of expertise. Can you just remove that question? It's not for one, like, no, that's an inconvenience. Now, so let's say we're talking to someone at Kenvue, and they're in the midst of being acquired by Kimberly-Clark. We know we're not supposed to talk and ask questions about that, because they're just going to say, we can't talk about that. We're smart enough to ask questions, and we've worked with enough corporate communications organizations that we know how this works. And
saying we're smart.
And it's just, after 600 episodes, like we were sitting dinner with some people last night, and we were talking about how much we love working with Walmart corporate communications, and they were aghast. They said to us, my God, we have such horrible time working with them. I said, we've just figured out how to do it. And a lot of that has to do with just your passion for the business, your appreciation, understanding what the people on the other side of the table need. And we find a way to make it work. And at the end of the day, if we're delivering meaningful, entertaining content that educates our audience, then we think we've done our job. Yeah.
So, Kiri, I'm going to migrate us a little bit into why we're here in the first place. You and me and Peter are not going to sit here and recap everything we saw. But let's just talk about some highlights, and then also let's talk about what didn't happen over here but should have, especially with retail media, right? This is, I don't know, the 5th or 6th year of retail media showing up in a big way and owning a lot of the conversations. But it feels to me that the conversations still are not migrating. It's the same stuff. Let's talk about measurement. Let's talk about incrementality. Let's talk about data. Let's talk about personalization, hyper-targeting. This after COVID, when this started again in 2021, 22, I forget, those were the topics. Why has it not changed? Did you observe anything different?
Well, I actually think that we shouldn't stop talking about those things. I don't think they're ever going to be fully solved. And the reason why they're not going to be fully solved is that we're moving into new ways of acquisition, new ways of buying. And that means that we need to then go back to the drawing board sometimes and look at how we're actually measuring these things. And doing personalization with AI-enabled shopping journeys being the big one. This is the next frontier for retailers to think about, well, how, if I'm not seeing that my AI-referred traffic come in with any indication about what that conversation looked like before they landed on my site, what do I do with that? And how am I going to think about my ads business, which was historically so dependent on sponsored product ad units shown in the search results page from a keyword search? Then we do need to rethink about personalization and measurement from almost again from scratch, because the consumer journey has changed.
I think, Kiri, what I was trying to say is not the topics need to change. I feel like they're talking, like you gave an example of, if the consumer journey has changed, the way search has changed towards AI, that's what they should be talking about with incrementality. But they still go back to, I don't know how to measure it.
Shri, my bigger issue, and this is a component of it, is I still don't believe that while this place is populated with CMOs, that most of them have anything more than a cursory understanding of all the capabilities that retail media has and commerce media have today. They're still here because of the creativity awards, that it's still not part of most of their DNA, that they are relying on agencies, they're relying on junior people to them. You and I've talked about it. I'd be surprised if 20% of them had TikTok on their phones.
So let me ask Kiri that question. This is the Festival of Creativity. Those awards are going out tonight, Thursday. 90% of I don't know the exact number, so I'll make it up, but it's a very large proportion of the number that come here are US-based companies. maybe global in nature, but primarily from headquarters. Most of them are either gone this afternoon or they're leaving tonight. They're not here for the creative awards. So
it's a tale of two cans, because I was actually just at the Palais in the press room rushedly trying to get an article out.
Are you saying it's a semi-can kind of life?
No, I'm not going to use that line. That's I can't take that one.
Okay.
But
you don't like the semi-can, or you don't like the
It's a tale of two cans. There's two half semi.
A tale of two cans.
Tale of two cans. I'll go with that.
Can I keep that one?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Cool. So there is the brand can, and then there is the behind the scenes tech can, and I think they're here for different purposes, but there is a feeding frenzy mechanism happening. So the creative work that's being judged at the Palais that the CMOs are here for, and we have, these amazing celebrities on stage talking about authenticity and...
Oh, the irony. Oh, the irony.
So, talking about something that's been, done to death and has... Anyway, let's move on. So we've got
I got a family of celebrities now, so I'm going to plead the fifth on that one.
Yeah.
Sure. They're authentic though.
They are that.
We wouldn't know any other way if you follow my Instagram or TikTok.
So we have the brand awards that are also very heavily involved with the agency world as well. Creative, production, strategy, right? So that is the creative that we see. And then there is the part of advertising, which is which audiences do you then go and get that creative in front of? How do you know that it worked?
Mm-hmm.
What are the different formats? And so that is this sort of sub-ecosystem that I think kind of gets looked down upon a little bit. For me personally, for better or worse, probably for worse, I would like to spend a little bit more time here. I don't see all of the brand stuff because it's not really my world.
Yeah.
And I've only got so much time and attention that I can focus on. My job is really more about that distribution side of the creativity than the creativity itself. And so I therefore do not spend much time in the Palais. I spend more of it on the Croisette, talking with retailers and tech companies. I don't think it's such a bad thing, but there is that is the tale of two can, that we have the brand and the actual deployment sort of sitting often away from each other.
There are thousands of people who come here for that second can that you and I don't get the chance to visualize. Native brand equity development.
I would argue that this year reinforced it for me. Last year it was evident. This year just proved it, is that I don't think that the retail media and the tech side of it is necessarily in the background or in the underground of this. They are prominent components of the entire experience. Just walk along the Croisette and see the tent activations. Look at what's going on at the Majestic, at the Mondrian. It's heavily tech focused, right? A lot of creators are here, much to my chagrin. Some of them a little too crazy as far as I'm concerned. But the point is, in conversations we've had this week with at least 4 RMNs, they all confirmed, I put the hypothesis out to them and they confirmed it. They are now gravitating around 2 industry integrated events. One is CES. That's where they kick the year off. And Cannes is where they do their mid-year assessment and plan out for the rest of the year. They all come heavy. Like it used to be Shop Talk. It is not Shop Talk anymore. They used to bring their full cadre of senior leadership. Now it's a handful of people go to those events. They're really not going there. Cannes and CES are where people go in large numbers and spend the big bucks to activate against commerce media. Possible is emerging. That's what they said. That was what they said.
Yeah.
They said those two, and they said Possible is emerging.
Yeah.
I went to Possible its first year, and I thought it was such a dud.
Yeah.
Because there were the only brands that showed up were on stage, and they would walk out of the green room to the Uber waiting for them, and they were gone to the airport.
Yeah. I think Possible it's like Cannes without the Palais.
The Fontainebleau is not bad.
The vanity component is missing.
Top end of the Fontainebleau, there's vanity and muck all over that place.
No, the vanity component of the Palais. I was at the Palais. They were yachts.
Oh, yeah.
I went to 6 boat parties and I collected a bunch of wristbands.
I actually mean more of like the creativity awards and like some of the work.
Yeah, if I flip back 2 years before retail media came to Possible for the first time only in 2025 in any meaningful way. But if you go prior to that, I was asked to guest speak several times at Possible. It was always about a campaign. That's what all the conversations were about, a successful media campaign. So it was like the baby making of the big Cannes Creative Campaign Awards.
Okay.
This is more vanity about, I created the best campaign and here's why it was successful and look at my impressions. And that's what it possible was about.
So Kiri, I want to get a little behind the scenes on Cannes for you personally. In the best of ways, Shri and I would say you are a hustler. You do a great job of building a business. And I was going to say, so tell us, share with our audience, what were your objectives here? And give them a flavor for all the stuff that you were doing at Cannes. Because we look at you and say, wow, you've built a brand around yourself and your podcast and what it takes to kind of grow that at an event like this.
Yeah, I would. Absolutely. And then I want to come back to what you guys did at the CPG Guys house, because speaking of hustling, I saw you pulling out coolers and carrying trays and trying to fix the AV. So that's, it's all,
we try.
It's all relative. Exactly. My Cannes this year, I was sort of locked in a bunker doing interviews a lot of the time.
Panels, I assume.
Panels. Yes, so I did a few panels. I actually have a really close collaboration with The Drum, the media the marketing publication. And so I contribute a column there once a week, and I work on a lot of sort of content projects with them as well. We actually have, speaking of podcasts, we have a short run podcast series that is sponsored by CUSIC. It's a comedy podcast. It's called Basket Case.
Now that's different.
It is different. And absolutely. So it's an 8-parter. So we filmed a lot of content for that.
There's plenty of comedy in retail media.
Oh, you can't.
Yes. Well, actually, since you mentioned it, something that I have kind of fallen into recently that I have enjoyed so much and it has received such a good response from the industry is short form comedy videos about retail media. Have you seen these?
No,
I have not.
We need to urgently procure these videos.
Yeah, we've got to start because we want to contribute to the community. It's fun.
So it is, we've talked about some of these silly things that we keep complaining about, why we're still talking about measurement. We talk about last touch attribution, how silly that is. We talk about CMOs coming in and making up their own metrics that they want to see. We talk about brands telling retailers that they need this custom dashboard. The retailer goes and builds it. The brand never uses it. There's all these things that we hear. That's a good one. Haven't got to that one yet. So I turn these sort of annoying, frustrating moments that we have in our industry and I turn them into skits, and it's really fun. LinkedIn.
Oh
I have put a few on. I clearly don't spend enough time on LinkedIn, Shri.
Shri, here's what you need to do. Shri, when you get to Kiri's page on LinkedIn, upper right-hand corner, the bell, you change it from the occasional. You need to go to always on. So everything Kiri publishes. Make sure everything Kiri publishes. But this sounds great.
Not all of it's good. That's the thing. That's what I like to say when people are like, I don't understand how you do so much.
Yeah, but here's
I say, well, here's the truth.
I am fixing it now.
As an Australian, you may not appreciate this, but Shri does only because of his love of the game. You can strike out 2/3 of the time and still make the Baseball Hall of Fame, which we are going to visit in a couple of weeks.
That's the beauty of algorithms, right?
Did you do it?
Just like that?
Look.
We have fixed it.
Boom.
So if you go actually down here, you'll see, if you go to videos, there we go.
Awesome.
There's some
Basket Case.
Basket Case is the new, the new podcast with the Drum and CUSIC. And then there's some, short form that I've been doing.
She's now lost in immersion looking at the comedy videos.
Did you notice how Shri's talking about himself in the third person a lot?
No, it's Shri. It's not the CPG Guys. That would be the third person. Shri is the first person.
All right, now let's talk about CPG Guys House.
Yeah,
this is the first time you did that.
I believe it's called La Résidence.
Thank you for the correction.
The House of Consumer Goods and Retail. La Résidence.
La Résidence. That's Canadian.
So Shri and I have been coming to Cannes now prior to this 3 years. And last year we just said, okay, we think we've got a handle on what's going on here. Yeah. How can we do something that fits well into this experience, but we do it with a little more independence and authenticity than everything else. Like you walk onto one of the big advertising holdco spaces on the Croisette, and come on, it's all about showing client love. It's just about showing.
I mean, you know the game.
I do. And I don't fault them for that. But my point is, I said, we've built a great community. How do we partner with companies that are in our community and authentically help them tell some stories that we know are stories that are important to tell, and bring the community together, not just to hear a panel, but to actually spend some time and interact. And we wanted to create rule number one, location, location, location. And we looked at it from a commerce media standpoint. We said, where does most money in a dollar go against commerce media? It goes against the people in Seattle. We made sure our residence was within a block of Amazon port. That was very important because, that would be a central place for everybody to go. Mm-hmm. 2, we needed it to have enough indoor space to have conversations, but we also wanted an expansive outdoor space so that people could extend that out afterwards and have conversations. And we wanted to work with inviting people on who are actually advancing some of the thought leadership, more cutting edge aspects. So we kind of brought that all together and we said, we're going to partner with different companies throughout, as opposed to we necessarily own everything. We're going to work with them because some of them have great ideas and great connections and inclusively. And so what we ended up doing is bringing together 3 corporate sponsors and 1 community sponsor. And by that, I mean, we worked with eMarketer, we worked at Dollar General, we worked with CVS, but then we also worked with an organization that Shri and I are so happy to be associated and allied with, which is the Women in Commerce Media. So and then, we had someone who are you talking to? You don't have to name the names, but what did they say to you about the CPG Guys house this weekend? We won't mention him. But
this
he did
a great story.
But he did. The quote that came back to was, he said, "What's going on? The CPG Guys really own the Croisette this year."
So I
that was high praise to us.
I have some learnings. I'm not going to sit here and say we were the best under any circumstance. Here's what we observed in the past few years that even prompted us to do the hustle, as you mentioned, Kiri. We'd walk into all these, and I'm not going to just call it holdcos. It doesn't matter who.
Oh,
Peter and I walked up and down those tents in the Croisette. We've been to every yard at some point. All 21 of that stand there every year.
There's one company that claims to be very innovative around brands that doesn't necessarily.
I'm not going to name a single one.
I know, that's my point, is that.
No, we're not going to name a single.
Fine.
But generically, here's the observation.
Yeah.
People use all those spaces for meeting rooms.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get in a cool atmosphere to sit down, grab some snacks, get some beverages, booze, call it what you may, and then do private one, 2 people conversations. There are panels running through the day. Like I don't see a cohesive conversation. It's just panels running through the day.
Here's our product.
There's only 15 chairs in front of those panels, and it's 8 or 10 people occupy them. Most of the chairs are empty, and people stand around these tables and are chatting, and it's so distracting.
Yeah.
All that stuff is taped, 15 people watching the panel, and that's what they release as a big success.
I know, but when you get the angle just right with the camera,
it's perfect.
Looks like everyone is there.
You kind of nailed it, right? There are 3 cameras. There's 3 cameras in there. It looks like I would hope so. That's a key. What we wanted to do is create. You know how we started this conversation? We're not talking about the right stuff. I didn't mean we're talking about the wrong topics.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the right stuff within those topics.
Yeah.
So we were hoping to generate that conversation. Of course, Peter and I did not anticipate so many partners would want to be sponsors and own a piece and piece of piece.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we had like 20 pieces of conversation. My single biggest takeaway for the House of CPG Guys next year, the CPG Guys will put together the conversation topics and source who should talk.
Yeah.
We had some over-successful panels, and I think you know which ones those were. You were on those. When you had Andrew Lipsman, you and Sarah Marzano on the same panel, you just can't go wrong.
Yeah.
But what if we had 4 of those? How would that have gone? We only had 1 of those. Why?
Yeah, right. Well, it's very difficult because, look, being a CAM is very expensive.
It's not. We know.
You need to pay the bills. The places down on the Croisette as well, they're trying to bring in business. They need to either get enough deals coming through in those private meeting rooms, or they can bring in panelists who are willing to pay to be there as a way to kind of fund that experience. It's a tremendous financial burden. Just a quick pivot though, what I think is very interesting is I find it very like the projection of wealth for service providers in your life, whether that's personal or professional. If I have a private banker or insurance agent or something like that showing up with a crazy Rolex and a Ferrari, I'm like, this is where my money's going. And I think what's very interesting about two retailers who showed up for the first time as media networks this year, showed up with like 2 or 3 people. And that was DG and Costco.
Mark Williams.
And yes, exactly. And
I have a funny story.
They're not here to kind of like have a cabana and say, guess what? We're revamped, we're big, we're going big. They're like, no, we're a value retailer. So I think it's interesting. You know, I love what you did. It's something new. It's something different. Obviously, people are stoked to be here. There is a, you know, there is a cost associated with that. You have to find a way to pay for it. And then just seeing like who is here kind of being scrappy on the cheap and using that as a marketing sort of
I couldn't
message.
agree. I could not agree more, right? The thing, again, my head gravitates to last night. Again, today's Thursday, the closer can. So Wednesday night, I spent 3 hours on some of the yachts last night. While those were yacht parties, I was able to have some very meaningful discussion with 3 or 4 CEOs and CMOs.
Then they're effective with
service providers. And I asked them that very question. You know, getting a yacht is a $750,000 minimum commitment here and you have to take it from weekend to weekend, whether you use it or not. That's just the way the model works. And so I said, first of all, you get done on Thursday. What happens on Friday and Saturday with the yacht? And I said, we just casually hang out as a team, get a bunch of meals, that kind of stuff. So the ROI for that, unless you're doing teamwork, which none of them really told me they are, it's just casual. You can come and go as you please on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And so I said, y'all hosted a bunch of panels. You had a bunch of meetings. How did that go? 4 out of 4. 4 CEOs, a bunch of CMOs, so these are all service providers, said the same exact thing to me. We couldn't get the audience or the people we wanted on our boats in our tent. It just became glorified meetings, and I'm not so sure I got anything out of it.
Well, 2 things. One, and when they go to renew next year, will they remember any of that, or are they just going to blindly go and say, yeah, we got to do that boat thing again? I'd argue that. But for us, what I think made it very appealing for people to want to come and talk on our platform was the fact that post-Can, that little conversation may appear in a LinkedIn clip somewhere, and that's about it. We recorded content that becomes a podcast that goes out to the CPG Guys audience, which is very large and very vast. And for them, that provided an additional amplification. It wasn't completely about the people sitting in the room. It was understanding that this message was going to be carried to a much, much larger audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? You at this CPG Guys, I was like, as you mentioned a couple of times, if not more. What do you think?
It kind of goes back to the question I was asking you before about, you know, you get a big name on the pod, and I love your point about the questions, and those are important to you. You can't really control what someone says.
Yeah, we can't tell them what to say.
How interesting that's going to be. And, you know, you can be super prepared as an event organizer, as a moderator for a panel. And it does ultimately come down to who gets on stage and what they're allowed to say and how practiced they are at, you know, sharing an interesting message. And you guys would know more than anyone, there's a lot of terrifically smart, experienced, opinionated people in our industry that are not allowed to say it.
Oh yeah, they're not. No, they're not.
So that is that, and that's not going to not going to change whether it's a panel or a podcast. Any
problem, Loki, but that's an issue because we're not. Let's take incrementality for a reason. Incrementality is very important. It should be one of the hottest topics in retail media, no matter what trade event we go to. In my opinion, right? We should do half a day of programming on incrementality and how to truly build. What is incrementality? I get 17 definitions. People can't even articulate to me what it is. What do you want? Like, why do you say incrementality? So let's have that conversation. And then, is there a common definition of incrementality? And then hold those that sell incrementality against it. Hold them accountable.
Well, I think that there is a lot of playing nice that happens in public, and the real conversations happen behind closed doors. Liz Roche from Albertson, she's a
masterclass,
and she was telling me how, you get the data scientist from the retailer together in the room with the data scientist from the brand in the room. If they can sit down for 6 hours, they'll come to an agreement.
Yeah.
But they're like doing that across the board for all of your big customers. It is, and that was actually some Albertson's research that they did. She alluded to it on the panel, which found that depending on how you actually do the math, what does the denominator look like, then incrementality can swing from positive to negative just based on what kind of factors you put into it. So again, I don't think that necessarily it's going to be a problem that is solved, because every category has a different sort of attribution window.
I want to talk a little bit about your comment on interesting people not allowed to say things. And I've got 2 relevant stories that relate to my podcast partner in particular. The first is
bitter and replacing
no.
an AI agent.
I'm not. No. At General Mills.
This guy works 7 days a week.
Sri had already started the podcast when he joined General Mills, and he made it a non-negotiable. I'm not giving up the podcast. And the CEO said, okay. But the head of corporate communications, after hearing of this Faustian bargain that had been arranged, added some caveats saying, listen, that's fine, but you can never talk about General Mills or mention that you work for General Mills on the podcast. That's fine. Okay, you're a corporate officer.
Yep.
They don't want association responsibility for content that they have no control in scripting. But the other one was the fact that he can't talk about the podcast within the walls of General Mills. And here's how that plays out. And we talked about this. There were a lot of companies that we desperately wanted to get on the podcast. We wanted Meijer on the podcast. We wanted SC Johnson on the podcast. These are notoriously privately owned companies. HEB is another one. We did get Nathan, right? Ashwin.
Yeah, the head of marketing.
Yeah. But if you were to ask the head of retail media at Meijer, he would die to get on our podcast. We had to beg to get someone from Roundel on the podcast. And this comes down to corporate policy. Who are they willing to let on the podcast? So back to my thing on Sri, he wasn't allowed to talk about the podcast. And what would happen is Sri would get engagement scores from his direct reports up his chain of command. And invariably, some junior level person on Meijer, right, some junior level person on Meijer would write in that Sri tends to play favorites in terms of which of our retail customers he invites on to the CPG Guys podcast, having no knowledge of the fact that we have sent countless messages to the teams, and they just can't get permission to come and talk to the podcast. So if you're out there and you're listening and you wonder why we haven't had on somebody from a very big retailer or a very big brand, I promise you we've asked, and I'm telling you that they just won't do it, and that's their decision.
Okay, a couple of things to add on to this. Very interesting. I've also spoken with some senior people who can't do a traditional press interview with me because I contribute to these, major press publications as a columnist, and they can't do the traditional press profile. They can do podcasts though. So
what's the difference?
It's just it's
your
the
reach in the podcast is not going to be any less.
It's the whims of the comms team ultimately.
Yeah, it's amazing how much corporate comms control
old school way of thinking.
Messaging.
Another one is I have made an editorial choice with my own publication. I don't really cover announcements.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get sucked into covering an announcement.
Sure, big ones probably.
And it is always something I regret because I will cover one retailer's announcement and then the next one will get upset.
And why didn't you cover ours? Yeah.
You're not covering ours. And I think when I explain that to people, they understand. But, look, I think you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Sometimes we're trying our best. I try not to play favorites either. Often it just kind of things happen that are outside of our control.
So we're doing a piece now for about a year. Every Tuesday, it's called the Commerce Riff.
Okay.
So where Peter and I pick 4 newsworthy articles in the industry and we cover it in 2-3 minutes.
We give our opinions on it.
And we give our opinions on it. Now, it's a 15-minute show, snackable. So the problem is we have to pick and choose. And in that algorithm of pick and choose, we're going to disappoint somebody. But here's the good news, Kiri. It's our decision.
Yeah. Where we started this episode was World's Smallest Violin about the food at Cannes. I think that's also, we have with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Yeah.
It is, I know everyone's like, okay, good for you, but it is difficult. And sometimes, what I try and do with my content is I have a POV. Not everyone agrees with me. I understand that. I don't like disappointing people or upsetting people. I'm sure it happens sometimes because I do want to share a POV with what I'm doing by default. That means, I might not always be like super supportive or jazzed about an initiative or a change or something that someone is or isn't doing. But that is the, trying to keep it real and have a POV. I think you're going to disappoint some people.
What did we not see at Cannes that you were expecting to see?
Or wanted. Yeah, you wanted to see.
Or you wanted to see. What about you, Peter?
I just didn't see enough of it. This is the first year I spent most of it within our own activations. I honestly enjoy walking.
Price for being a hustler.
It is. I am in Malcolm Gladwell's vernacular, an archetype connector, right? So making those run-ins on the Croisette, I love that. I actually do. It's quite enjoyable to me. And to a lesser degree, I got to do it, and I curated some of the people that I was able to do that with here at the house. But I do enjoy doing that. And this is the first year I really didn't get a chance to engage in that kind of open collaboration and connection.
What about you, Kiri?
There are a couple of standout events for me that were that were standouts because they were refreshing in their approach and POV. And that is the Rumble we talked about. There's like a silly debate that I've done for two years now with Andrew Lipsman and Colin Lewis. And it's not an academic debate. It's name calling, hair pulling, dirty, like just.
We got to attend this next time.
Yeah, it was kind of more like a roast. And that's a fun format.
Well, we like it because we know you're scrappy and you've got a low center of gravity. You can take those guys. I mean, it was easy to crush them.
Okay, you can try next.
There we go.
And then the other one was we did with the Women in Commerce Media Collective and Fluent.
Yes.
The retail media couples therapy. And we had, it was sort of like an improv session where we had someone playing a brand, someone playing a retailer, someone mediating the troubles and dramas of these relationships as a therapist. And that was a really fun format. Again, not educational. We weren't there to teach anyone anything, but it helped people kind of feel like, okay, they're talking about stuff that I understand. There's lots of inside jokes that makes me feel part of the club.
But to me, you acknowledge that there's couples therapy needed in
Yes, exactly.
God,
that's putting a dart on the board.
Yeah. So that was really fun. And that's what I would love to see more of, not just at Cannes, but at other industry events, is do something silly, make fun of yourself. And not everyone is in a position to do that. That's why people like us who have a little bit more flexibility and leeway in what we can say, and we can make jokes and things like that. What about missing?
As Peter said, I don't know, 4th year, 5th year doing this. Now I'm coming here truly as I don't know, is it a journalist? Call us what you want, podcaster, commentator.
Yeah.
It's different than coming here with a brand lens from my prior life.
Yeah. Do you find that hard to switch off?
Not the least.
It's dead to you.
I'm done with my corporate life. I can just be as honest.
We can make fun of ourselves, can't we, Shrey?
You have to have Kiri hold this. One of these. There we go.
What do you think?
There we go.
We love making fun of ourselves.
I love how cheeky you look in this.
He's quite cheeky.
Vanity-filled people on the do miss that we're not going inside the palais. The other side we have completely blinded. We're so focused on commerce and commerce media that we're blinded. This is about the festival of creativity. I'll give you
predict how much longer before and will commerce dominate Cannes?
It already is.
No, you need the little fish to get the big fish to get the big fish. Yeah. So you need to have the brands here to get the retailers here to get the tech partners here.
The vanity of those awards is what brings the brands in the first place.
Given the fact that commerce is so prevalent, and that where the budget sits. Are CCOs missing out, not coming to Cannes? A chief customer officer, the head of sales.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, outside of Amazon and outside of Walmart, most of the retail media investment is handled by the customer teams.
You're asking a very important question because traditionally, as Kiri just pointed out, the whole reason brands come is the campaign award.
Right.
Creative awards. Historically, that's the way it's been for well before. My whole thought on that is, even to the day, it's just the brands that are coming. No commercial team outside brand and brand leadership is coming, even though there's, as Kiri started this, there are two Cannes, the tailored two Cannes. The brands used to come for the erstwhile tail of Cannes. They still come for the erstwhile tail of Cannes, and now they're being forced into the second Cannes, into all these retail media discussions. Some have control, some don't, some have budget, some don't. You need to see.
Call out to CCOs. You need to come to Cannes. Give it a try. You're going to find this to be extremely enlightening. And there's a lot for you to delve into here. It's not just about the media awards, the creativity awards. You can send your colleague, the CMO, to those, but you should be here for the commerce conversations that are taking place. So the
feedback I still get from many CCOs to the day is, oh, that's a marketing vanity brouhaha conference.
Except the fact that all of their retail customers are here, as I mentioned earlier, all their senior people are here from a media standpoint. They need to be here.
And also the other thing for retail media networks, they're sort of done with the performance budgets at this point. I think they are, and they're trying to get into the national brand budgets. That's why they want to be here as well. Is like, we're not just about sponsored product ads. We've got these audience segments you can activate on CTV and all of that.
Well said indeed. So I think that's what's missing for me, that ability to see that other tail of the can, go to the Palais, sit down and actually watch someone speaking. By the way, the times I have done that in a past life, those are fully attended.
Yes. Yep.
And there's another important tide rising, which has been for the last 5 years. And I think all of us talk about it passionately on the different places we have exposure to go speak, whether it's podcasts, panels, things of that nature, journalism. And that is the rise of the digital creator. There are thousands of digital creators here.
Yep.
Most of them with little parapluies, taking photos of themselves and looking, well.
They're the ones who move units these days.
Right. Yep.
Really interacting with them or paying attention to. So I call it the tailored three cans, and that's how I'll close my thing.
Okay. Kiri, thank you for taking time out of the close of Cannes Lions 2026 to spend time with these old curmudgeonly podcasters. We appreciate your fresh perspective on this event and everything.
He's old, not me.
Thank you for having me. And, this is a really good discussion, I think, around the horn about what we all learned. We are also new media.
Yes,
we are new media.
Right?
Old guys, new media.
Yeah. And so it is interesting kind of walking around and seeing how content is being done and thinking about, like, what does that look like for us as B2B media companies?
Yeah.
Please subscribe to the Retail Media Breakfast Club podcast. It's on every podcast platform that is known to humankind. Kiri, thank you again. Shri, as always, this journey is meaningless without my best friend on it. So I'm grateful for your camaraderie, your partnership, your big head, Papa Entourage, and to our audience, thank you, the 45,000 followers on LinkedIn who engage with all of our content. We are not a community without you, and we are grateful for all of your engagement. If you heard something in today's podcast you think was interesting, drop us a line, make a comment, whatever. We listen to it all. We really do appreciate it. Until next time, this is PVSB signing off. You have been listening to the CPG Guys podcast. Goodbye. The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.